Good morning, and you know what day it is? Hump day! Mike. Happy Wednesday and good morning. So, we're on day 4. So, it's step number 4. Number 1, we know we have specifically choose our goal. We got to decide what it is that we're committed to, and it's got to be specific. So, number 1 is know your outcome. Number 2, you take massive action. Number 3, sensory acuity. Are you getting closer to your goal or further away? Now, each one of these steps is critical. You have to do every single one in order to achieve your outcome. Now, can you still achieve your outcome without being perfect? Absolutely. It's progress, not perfection. But the more direct you are with each of these steps, the quicker you're going to get that outcome. So speed is what decides or is what results from how well you do each of these steps. But it's progress, not perfection. So step number 4, all of them equally as important. Step number 4, this is one where people get really caught up. Number 4 is after you have sensory acuity, if you're not getting closer to your goal, then you need to change your approach. Change your approach. So step number 1, know your outcome. Step number 2, take massive action. Step number 3, sensory acuity. Am I getting closer to my goal, or am I getting further away? Step number 4, change my approach. And here's what happens. People will say, I've tried everything, right? I've tried everything and I can't lose weight. I've tried everything and I can't change my finances. I've tried everything and I've given up on relationships. How many of us have said that? I've said that. I've said that more than once. The reality is when you ask people, and people say, I've tried everything. Okay, everything? Yes, everything. Okay, tell me everything that you've tried. How many things have you tried? I've tried hundreds. Okay, name 100. Okay, well, maybe I haven't tried hundreds, but I've tried at least a dozen. Okay, name 10. And then as you start to talk to them, you figure out that they've really done the same 2 things over and over and over again. You can't do the same thing expecting a different result. You know, if your diet starts every Monday after every weekend you've partied your brains out, it's time to change your approach. If you've done that for a year or 2 years or 7 years, then it's time to not start your diet on a Monday because that doesn't work. Start your diet on a Friday. Start your diet before the weekend. Change your approach. Stop doing the same thing expecting a different result. And when you think about, well, how many times am I supposed to do this? Okay, well, how long would you give your average baby to walk before you quit trying to teach them how to walk, assuming that they were physically able to do so? You're not. You're going to continue to teach them until they walk. No wonder everybody walks. It's a magic formula. You know, Disney went to 302 banks before he found one that would finance Walt Disneyland in California. We know the Thomas Edison story, 10,000 plus experiments to discover the incandescent light bulb. And I mean, everybody in the world knew that he was trying to invent this light bulb. Everybody was watching Thomas Edison and watching for this invention. Life magazine did a huge article on him, and everybody's looking at him going, when are you going to give up? My Lord, it's 10,000 times. When are you going to give up? And he said, never. I know that I'm that much closer to discovering the incandescent light bulb. Jeff Bezos, well over 100 banks before he found one that would finance Amazon. People that are significantly successful, they do not look at failure as failure. They look at it as learning. So when you try an approach and it doesn't work, you've now learned something. You've made a distinction, but you've got to do something different. So as you're taking massive action and you have sensory acuity and you've worked it hard and you've given it time and it hasn't worked out, then you do something new. And if that doesn't work, then you do something new. And if that doesn't work, then you do something new. How long? Until you get your result. And if you have a big enough why, this becomes effortless. Think back to a time in your life when you dreamed of having something in your life that you have now, whatever that is. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a goal that you had to achieve a certain level in a career or just to get into the career. Maybe there's a financial, I dreamed of having a house like this at one time in my life. So think back at a time when you dreamed of having something in your life that you now have in your life. And when you look back at that time, what you realize is that you had a huge why. You had no idea how you were going to get there, but you knew you were going to get there. I just saw a thing on uh, Instagram last night as I was clicking through. I do social media twice a day, morning and evening, and it showed a ladder to success, and you could only see the ladder till about here, and then it went off into like a fog. And the tagline at the bottom said is you can't ever see how you're going to get to the result. You just know you're going to get there. That is how you approach any of these outcomes. You don't know how you're going to get there. You should absolutely have a plan. Absolutely. Is everything going to go to plan? No, it's not going to go to plan, but that's okay. You should have a plan anyway and stay flexible. But the biggest thing from this last part is stop doing the same thing expecting a different result. If what you've done hasn't worked, then you got to try something new, try something new, try something new until you get the outcome that you want. So let's review. Number one, know your outcome. Remember, we got to be specific, very specific. The more specific, the better. This much by this day, by this, by this, by this, by this. Number two, massive action. Never leave the sight of a goal without taking massive action. The cure for everything is massive action. When we're stuck, when we don't know how, when we get caught up in our story, when we get caught up in, I'm not sure how I'm going to get it done, massive action is the cure-all for all of that. Massive action. Number three, have sensory acuity. Am I getting closer to my goal or am I getting further away? Keep score. Keep track. You don't know if you're winning the game if you're not keeping score. If you're running a business and you don't know your numbers, then you're not running a business. You're driving a car blindfolded and you're going to crash. You got to know your numbers. You got to know your outcome. If you're trying to get yourself in health, but you're not keeping track, you're not getting on the scale, you're not measuring, you're not doing blood tests, how do you know? You don't. You're just throwing darts at a board with a blindfold. It's not going to work. So you got to know your outcome, and you got to have sensory acuity. You got to be acutely sensitive to, am I getting closer to my goal or am I getting further away? And then last, if it's not working, do something different. Stop doing the same thing expecting a different result. Stop. If you've tried the same thing multiple times and it hasn't worked, it's time to try something new. And a lot of times, by the way, the something new that's probably going to work is the thing that you hadn't thought of or is the opposite of what you think you should do. A lot of times it's the opposite of what you think you should do that you end up trying that and that ends up working. Somehow that just seems to be a thing. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how to speed up this process. But today, the lesson is when you're not getting closer to your goal, change your approach and do something differently. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to say good morning, everybody, again. Good morning, Val, my great uncle Bill. Janine, it's great to see you this morning. Dolores, as always, you're incredible. Thank you for doing the summaries that you've been doing now for literally years. Jerry Lakota, great to see you, brother. And Sarah Pesca is watching this morning. Great to see you all, too. Thanks for watching. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.